So our employee has failed the first line drug test, in this case a saliva test, and we now need to send a sample off to the laboratory to do what's called a chain of custody or second line drug test. So with the drug test, included in the drug test kit, you'll have a chain of custody test consent form. So before we move on to taking further saliva samples and packaging them up, I want to run through the consent form itself. So when you get these consent forms, you'll notice that some of the details have already been filled out. So customer code, customer telephone number, customer postcode and customer name. So that's our company. And your details will go in where it says site location. So that will generally be your company name and where the test was done. Underneath that we have reason for test: pre-employment, pre-sponsorship, random, unannounced, scheduled, for cause, post-incident, or any other reason that you've done the test. If there's another reason apart from the ones I've mentioned, you'll need to specify in the box here. Underneath that you put the collector's name, and then further down the donor's name, donor's date of birth, collection time, collection date, and if you have it, the national insurance number. You'll need a sentinel number if you're doing work with the rail industry. Underneath that, donor declaration for medication. So you've already completed a first line test consent form where you ask them what medication they've taken in the last 2 weeks. So you just simply transfer that information from that first line test consent form into the little box here where it says medication. You'll notice when you get these forms, there's only enough space for 3 types of medication. If somebody has taken more medication than that, it's acceptable to put a plain piece of paper in with any additional medication into the envelope when you send this back to the laboratory. If they haven't taken medication, then they simply tick the box there, or you tick the box there: I am taken, I am not taken, and have not taken medication the last 14 days. Or if they have taken medication but it's of a sensitive nature and they don't want to declare it to you, they simply tick the box that says I am taking medication but I don't want to declare it. Either way, whether they've taken medication or not, they'll need to sign the donor declaration for medication. You'll notice to the right of that in bold is a number, in this case 010000353, and if you look at the top of these forms, there's 4 barcodes, and underneath each of the barcodes is that same bold number. That's called your chain of custody test number. And if you do one of these tests, sent off to laboratory, and you want to know where that is in the system, or you have any questions about it, if you can quote that number to us, we can tell you exactly where it is and what's happening to it. Underneath that, we have alcohol breath result. That's not something that's going to be of concern to you, so forget that there. But to the right of that, it says POCT. POCT stands for point of care test, and this first line drug test you've done here, completed here, was a first line or point of care test. So you'll need to write some details about this test onto the form. So you'll need to state whether it was a urine or oral fluid test that you did. You'll need to write down the expiry date and the lot number and product code found on the packaging itself. You'll need to say whether that's negative or non-negative. I'm assuming that because somebody's failed the first line test, it's a non-negative, and that's why you're sending us off to the laboratory. So you'll just tick the box non-negative, and then you'll need to say in the little box there what it's non-negative for. So that will be THC, COC, AMP, or whatever drugs the person's failed for. You'll need to put that in the little box there. Underneath that, under the red bold writing there, which says please write laboratory test required here, this is where you'll need to tell the laboratory what you want them to test for. So if you want them to do a screen for cocaine and cannabis, because that's what the person's failed the first line drug test for, then you'll need to write that again in there: COC, THC. To the right of that, if it's an oral fluid test or saliva test that we've done, we'll need to tick the box that says oral fluid. And underneath that, the donor consent to test. So I invite the donor or employee to read that statement there. Once they've read it, I ask them then to sign it and date it. You are classed as the collecting officer, and you will need to sign and date that declaration there. And the only thing left for the employee to do now is to sign and initial and date the two what are called anti-tamper seals at the bottom of the page. These are the orange seals. They'll need to have an initial and date in each of those, one marked A and one marked B. That is a complete consent form, and I'm now going to come on to showing you how to conduct the test itself, and with the paperwork sent off to the laboratory.